teams, the Joe Gibbs or Rick Hendrick or Stewart Haas Racing, the Penske's. But if with that draft, you can be a player in that. So its positioning, track position in this race is huge. You used to see guys would just hang out in the back and ride around until maybe 30 to go and then go. That doesn't fly anymore because it's kind of flipped, and it's basically you're running 160 laps and you're going to have to race 160 laps. You want to be up front. You want to be ahead of all the chaos, that you may have heard the term, the big one in racing where it's a big wreck. You want to be out ahead of that. So it's more on the driver. This race, the Daytona 500, this race, the Coke Zero Sugar 400, and the two races at Talladega are more on driver and focus, driver and spotter, and to keep them out of, or keep them in a position, to keep them in the line that's moving. If you watch on Saturday, they'll talk about, the which line is moving. Is it the outside or the inside lane? And if you can get yourself positioned in that, or get to with a car or a group of cars and move to the front. I mean, it's kind of, like I said, this is more of an equal playing field. So now all of a sudden, instead of having maybe, 15 to 20 cars that have a shot, all 40 have a shot realistically.
About how many laps do they have to take on average to pit? And how many pits are done in the Coke Zero Sugar 400?
So you're looking at, it's stage racing now in NASCAR, and that's something that was started, I think, 2 years ago, where it's almost they're making NASCAR more TV friendly, I think. So what you have is they'll go out and they'll start the race, and they may run. Let's say that the stages are 40 laps, and 80 to get to 160. So those will be automatic cautions. And so they can come in and pit in that. And they can go, pretty much about 45 laps on a tank of fuel. Tire wear typically isn't a big issue in this race because it's at night. It's a little cooler. So yeah, it's typically, maybe you're going to have 3 for sure, plus you're going to have another. So there's probably at least 4, a minimum of 4 pits, times in the pits, I guess. Yeah.
Gotcha. 4 under 160 laps makes sense. So
yeah.
I guess I'm going to ask you a general question here.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like you did a great job explaining that, by the way, the driver and the spotter. That makes sense. To this race, they are the most important, more than the crews and the pit crews themselves. Why are cars faster than other cars in this sport in general? That's always something I wonder. I mean, there's restrictor plates, right? Everybody's kind of supposed to have the same, build and engines and everything to keep an even playing field. Why are cars faster?
If you go back now, the sport is changing. It's changing in the way that the cars are being built. Okay. Yeah. It's so sensitive to templates in that. And they'll talk about, are the cars being trimmed out too much, or if they trim them out, that means they're going to be fast in a straight line, less downforce. If you look at if you go back and watch a race from about 10 years ago, those cars will be kicked way out. And if you're looking at a car coming straight at you, those cars are kicked way out to the right and the back, because they wanted to get as much air on that spoiler to force that back end down to get downforce. It's still a little bit like that, but now because they've cut down so much on the horsepower of these cars, from 750 to 550, they want to trim them out as much as they can. They want to have those things as straight as possible, but still you have to find that balance between trimming out and losing your downforce to go fast and downforce for the corners. So it's that fine balance it's a lot of wind tunnel time with these teams. It's not just, loading up a car and going to the track. There's a lot of, it's in the sport is all, it's engineering,
Wow. So there's so they have a little bit of variance where they can adjust some things in their car, the spoiler size maybe, or the engine itself, or the weight of the car maybe.
There's some things that they can do. It's to get that spoiler. It's either at this race, they want to try to keep that spoiler out of the air as much as possible, because it's drag. Actually, it's slow you down. This is a 2.5 mile track at with 31 degrees of banking. That's huge.
So the spoiler's adjusted for corners too. Every track is different.
Yeah, and they're putting these. I think they have they're called a wicker on the spoiler that that it's like you have the part that, if you're familiar, the spoiler goes kind of straight up and down, and the wicker is like this piece that kind of sits like it's almost like a T on top of it that causes disturbance in the air to kind of slow these cars down, because you're still. These cars, even with them being cut down in horsepower and that, they're still running. They'll run. I'm guessing 195, 200 miles an hour still on Saturday night when they're in the draft of 40 cars.
Interesting. Wow. So and I didn't even. There's just so many things in this sport that I don't think of that makes it so interesting to be a fan, and the more I talk to you, the more I understand why you can become a fan. And that's really cool. Your knowledge is great when it comes to NASCAR. Well, let's get into the nitty gritty of this whole thing then. What kind of plays do you like for our listeners and for yourself for the race this weekend?
I was on 5 Dimes this morning. That's where I go. And was looking at a few plays, a couple of them that I like. I like Michael McDowell this week. I got two plays here. Daniel Suarez minus 180 versus Michael McDowell at plus 140. McDowell has an average finish, and I don't have that right in front of me, which I need. Nope, there it is. Over the last 5 races of 11.8. That's not too bad. He's got 2 top 5s and 3 top 10s, and he's led 20 laps. Where Suarez, I've got to go way down here to find him. I can't even find the guy. Anyways, I like McDowell.
That's plus money.
It's plus money, and that kind of shocked me a little bit. And the other one is it's McDowell versus Byron. Byron, and they're both 180 minus 180. Sorry, William Byron is minus 180. McDowell is plus 140 in that head-to-head matchup. Now I'll tell you, I think William Byron will probably outqualify McDowell, and probably Daniel Suarez will as well outqualify McDowell. But I just think that McDowell will be there at the end. Suarez has been inconsistent all year, switching from Gibbs to Stewart-Haas, and William Byron still trying to figure out how to finish a race, I think. So I like those two head-to-head matchups.
Wow. McDowell sounds like a little bit of a value play here against a couple guys. So, really interesting. Plus, you're getting plus money there. So you just kind of hope that Byron obviously falls back and Suarez falls back there as well. Well, that's fantastic, man. Those are great plays there. I love it when people find plus money plays. Those are the kind of nuggets that people are looking for.
Now, real quick I've got another one here also. Clint Boyer at minus 190 versus Ryan Newman at plus 150. Boyer is struggling this year, bad. And I don't see him turning things around this week. And Ryan Newman in his last 5 races at Daytona has been He has an average finish of 11.2 with 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s. So I like that. I like that head-to-head matchup as well. Clint Boyer has an average finish of, I see him here, 18.2 with 3 DNFs in his last 5. Did not finish.
It looks like that could be a name play right there. People recognize Boyer a little bit more, and while Newman is sitting there with plus money that has the recency bias here, the nice last few races. So is that going to be your card then?
Yeah, that's going to be my card this week.
All right. Well, fantastic,
Absolutely.
Paul. Hey, learned a ton with you having you on.
Cool.
Really appreciate it. I know that you're on vacation, and I also appreciate you taking the time to give us some plays here now that basketball, NHL, and baseball, well, football, baseball still going on, is over. So,
hey, anytime.
Man, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the Coke Zero Sugar 400. I'm sure you'll make a post at theoddsbreakers.com. And really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Yep, thank you. Have a good one.
All right, for our next segment, we have UFC 239 coming up this weekend, and no better person than our friend of the podcast to come on and break this stuff down. I'd like to welcome back Cub Fan Danny. You can tweet him at Cub Fan Danny. How you doing, bud?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th to you as well.
Oh,
Hope
man.
you're going to have a good time this weekend.
I will. 4th of July to me is like swimming pools, hot summer sun. You got, boating. You got dogs. You got beer. You got brats. You got fireworks. You got family. I mean, 4th of July is the perfect summer holiday, and people are usually off work, and if you have to work, God bless you. But, it's just one of my favorites, and I love that there's some sporting events going on just so we can, while we're having the phone, just kind of glaze at our phone a little bit, see what we're winning on and stuff like that. So I'm definitely loving that, my man. So real excited to get into this UFC. And to all your listeners out there, Danny, when he prepares for these, he literally watches these fighters last 3 to 5 fights, before he even starts to handicap them. He will go to the UFC app and just put it on his TV and watch these fights. That's dedication right there, and we're definitely lucky to have you, Danny.
Yeah, thanks. I have to do that because there are so many. There's like 750 fighters on these cards, and they don't fight every single week, so you can't see it. And sometimes you have a little bit too much beverage as you drink these guys as you're watching these fights, right? So like your mind is maybe a little bit messed up. So I love going back and watching their previous fights, and then even taking a step further, if it's really close, I'll go back and I'll look at who's the guys that they're fighting, who are the comparable, who how did they go against each other. So I mean. It's really fun to see somebody's head get knocked off.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. But unfortunately, looking at this card, some of the guys that we used to bet on with once in a while some plus money is all pretty big favorites here. I mean, you got Jon Jones you have to lay minus 650, 625. I'm looking at some of these books. My girl Amanda Nunez, ever since she beat up Cyborg, I'm never going to get plus money on her again.
Yeah,
you got Chiesa's there. He's a big favorite. You have Ben Askren is a favorite. I'm hoping we can find some value here. What do you think?
Yeah, and look, exactly what you said, right? Like even one of the guys you didn't talk about, Luke Rockhold, he's at minus 230, but he hasn't fought in forever because of a bad injury, right? And who knows how he's going to come back, but he's fighting against somebody that's just okay, right? And, I'm looking at this, I'm saying, where do I lay my money at? How am I going to do this? Because I look at it, like you said, it's like, I think Jon Jones is going to beat Thiago Silva. Amanda Nunez should win against Holly Holm, right? Ben Askren should win against Jorge Mastvidal. But here, I have to dig a little bit deeper here and go into some prop bets, right? And they're not always as easy to nail, but there's definitely value there. and you can get some really good plus money for a fighter that you think is going to win, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, just kind of looking at this fight, I'm going to kind of look at the last 3 fights of the main card here, and we're looking at Ben Askren versus Jorge Mastvidal, okay? So like you mentioned,